2011 meeting of the City of Lake Forest Parks and Recreation Board to order. First, I'd like to welcome our new student member, Connor Kenahan, with us tonight. He'll be with us the next year, and we look forward to his comments and his participation. So thanks for coming, Connor. First order of business is to approve our May 10th, 2011 board minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. The minutes are approved. We would like to welcome our festival chairman, Rick Amos from the Friends Foundation, to talk a little bit about the Friends Foundation Festival and Fireworks.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having us. My name is Rick Amos, and I'm the event chairman for this year's festival and 4th of July fireworks. On behalf of the Friends of Lake Forest Park and Rec, thank you very much for your support. And we are very excited about this year's festival. For those that have been to the festivals in the past, the format won't really change much from what we've done in the past, with a few slight improvements to the program. But this year we are having the festival on Monday, the 4th of July. Some cities are doing it on the 3rd, but we are doing it on Monday the 4th. Gates will open at 6 p.m., which is a change from last year. Last year was a 5 p.m. open. And then we will have 3 music performers performing this year. 16 Candles, which is a cover band that we had last year playing 80s music. We have a local artist playing this year, which is new. Alex Abbey is a 12-year-old local performer that is actually getting some press in the Chicagoland area and is performing in front of large crowds and on television in the past. She's going to actually perform a few songs in between 16 Candles. And then our headliner act is Rick Springfield from 80s fame. He has 17 top 40 hits. So if you go to his site or you look at his hit list, you will find that there's a lot of songs that you may remember from the 80s and the 90s. Connor, you may not remember any, but the rest of us will. So he will play until 9:30, and then we will have a 20-minute fireworks show choreographed to patriotic music similar to what we've had in the past. So we're very excited. The planning is underway. You'll start seeing posters and banners around town. We'll be running ads in the local newspapers. If you want to buy tickets for the event ahead of time, you can by going to our website. And you can purchase tickets there until June 17th, Friday. I think that's a Friday, the 17th. And then after that date, you can go to the rec center and buy tickets for entrance, which is $10 per person this year. Children 5 and under are in for free. And you can also buy parking passes there for the event as well. There's a general parking pass for $20, and then there's premier parking, which is behind Deer Pass School, which is $50, same as last year. One of the new items we're offering this year is that we are having Levels of Lake Forest will be catering and providing food for the event. In the past, we've had multiple vendors providing food options, and this year we decided to just go with Jay Levels restaurant, and he's going to have several stations set up for those that want to order meals or a la carte items. And then we're going to have a VIP area this year that we are selling tickets to for $75, and that will get you up close to the stage, and that will include food and beverages until they're gone. So those tickets are available as well if you'd like to buy a VIP. As you may know, a lot of our patrons will bring food and set up Ravinia style, which is fine. We encourage them to do that, but if they do want to purchase food at the event, it will be available this year from Levels. So we are very excited about being all prepared and ready to go and making this the best 4th of July festival we've had. This is our 5th year for the Friends running the event, and so we're upgrading a few of the items. I think the kids will find that we've improving our games area for them. We've got face painting for kids, and we've got a pie eating contest. If any of you would like to volunteer to be in the pie eating contest, we'd love to have you up there. Cash prizes for the winner, so I'll entice you with that. But again, we're very fortunate to be in charge of this event. We're looking forward to it. We're praying for good weather, and we look forward to the 4th, and we hope all of you come out and see us. And I'll open it up if there's any questions at this time.
Any questions? Sounds wonderful.
Thank
Excited about Rick Springfield.
He's very popular. He's got quite a following.
Yes, he does.
We're getting calls from all over the country of people buying tickets.
Great.
It's kind of interesting.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
So it'll be fun.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, on to Waveland Park improvements. Sally Swarthout is, no? No. You. What's Sally doing? Sally's doing something.
Sally's on the front.
Your name's not here? Okay. I saw the panic in your face, too, when I said that. No, not me.
Surprise quiz.
Yes. I thought I'd mix things up a little bit. General Hospital, Dr. Noah Drake. Yeah, 17 South 49. Like celebrity rehab? No, he's not. He came back on General Hospital like a year or so ago. He was a little tired.
Okay, tonight I'm going to give an overview of some of the improvements that we have underway at Waveland Park, as well as talk about the playground design option that we need to have some direction and approvals from the park board tonight. So Waveland Park, we're very excited to actually have started some of the work down there already at Waveland. And the very first thing that we have been working on is the complete reconstruction of the tennis courts. We had 4 tennis courts there, and we went through park board meeting the last time, as well as city council last month for bid approvals, and started the work there. And we will be doing 3 tennis courts and 1 basketball court. And the work is, the asphalt's all in, the fencing is all up with the posts. The asphalt is curing right now, so we're hoping to do some seal coating and get the color coating down on the courts here shortly. And we are looking to order the basketball backboards and things next. And we should have that open for tennis play at least, hopefully by the end of the month. Basketball might be a little bit later depending on the delivery of the actual backboards. With this element, I also wanted to mention that we have a family that is part of the foundation, actually Mary Kay Jekyll, and her son Daniel had passed away when he was in 6th grade, and she's been doing an annual fundraiser. We're looking for a project that could be done and to honor her son and for all of his friends to enjoy. And when she heard about this project, she was really excited about it because the kids do like playing basketball, and they're all sophomores now in college. So this was an element that really appealed to her, a basketball court, and she is now wanting to put her funding towards helping us finish all the basketball aspects, the backboards, and some of the costs that came along with making this a basketball court instead of a tennis court. So we're really excited about that, and the Jekyll family does live in the neighborhood of Waveland, so again, there's just a lot of memories for the family there, and she's going to be making contributions. She's not asking to name the courts or anything like that after. She just wants to do something in memory of her son and a place for his friends and stuff to have a place to gather. So we're really excited about her participation and the help that has come along to help us do this new amenity. As far as the playground, that was the second item at the park that was identified when we had our neighborhood parks meeting last fall, as well as when we talked about the age and things at the park. And so we did look at replacing the playground. It was built in 1991, so it's quite at the end of its useful life. As we know, we've talked about how it's been challenged with the fact that it's in a floodplain for the overflow of the pond that is there in Waveland Park, which has created some challenges with the timbers and the fencing and stuff. It has a tendency to be very damp, and that has caused a deterioration of that aspect of it. So that there's those kinds of challenges with it. And then we did look at the fact that we'd like to relocate that playground then for those reasons and move it into what currently is the East Softball Diamond at that park. And we talked about this at the neighborhood meeting that we held in May, on May 12th, with the residents that were from the neighborhood that came for that, and they very much like that idea. We have sought feedback on the playground designs, which we're going to go through in just a minute. We did not only the neighborhood meeting, but we did a mailing to 205 homes that are in the Waveland area, including a survey so they could participate in giving us feedback on the playground designs and an overview of all the improvement projects that we were looking to do there. And then where the current playground is, if we relocate it, we'd like to grade that area, take out the wood chips, obviously, and grade that area and seed it and kind of make that the shady picnic area. There are a couple picnic tables there. They're closer out more towards the field. And we'd pull it into that area so you'd have a nice picnic area inside of the playground, the pond, next to the shelter where the bathrooms are, and near the courts, too. So that area would be enhanced. And our hope is that we could start this project for the playground in August, though with Park Board and City Council approval, hopefully this month, we would go ahead and start the demolition of the softball diamond backstop and things, and get some of the demolition done that we would need to be in prep to start the playground design. So those are where it leads us to the actual playground designs. We originally had one playground design, which is the one that's up on the board right now. And we took this to that May meeting, and though we got some great feedback from it, and there was many elements that they liked, they asked us to also look at a second playground design, just so they could look at some options. And I thought I would just highlight a couple things about this option that we have here. And basically with this, what's nice, it is more of a horizontal, elevated playground. So there's many connection pieces so kids can travel across this playground and play interactively on a raised platform. This is a 6-foot deck. And we've got 3 slides with this particular option. We've got the 3 slide, we have the 2 kind of curving slide, and then on the back, which is hard to see here, we have the single that comes off of it. I think it's like right in there. So we have 3 slides on this particular design. We have a number of climbing type elements for, right here's one, here's a second one. On the back here, again, you can see some different elements like a web and stuff, which is really great for coordination, for agility, and different age groups will be challenged by this. So really little ones might, for instance, climb on this piece. They may only do this panel, but the older kids will keep going up kind of thing. So it's a real versatile playground for a variety of ages. It is fully ADA accessible. This is the transfer station, so with a wheelchair that they could transfer out of their wheelchair and go up onto the equipment there. And we think that this playground offers a lot of variety from that perspective. The views that are up there gives you a side view and a reverse view. I know from home it might be a little hard to see, but we did, as we mentioned, put this in color pictures that were mailed out to all of the neighborhood. A couple other aspects, we would have some small play elements that would also be around the playground that are ground elements like spinners and things. And then we have adjacent to that is what we call the web. It is a very tightly stretched play structure that, again, is really nice for all ages of kids and works on upper body strength and coordination. And then we were also proposing to have swing sets in the plan. It would be 2 bays, so we'd have 2 swings off of here that would be regular swings for any age, and then we'd have 2 that would be considered like preschool tot swings. And we could change out one of those swings to an ADA seat if we had that request for this park. The chains and everything are interchangeable. Also with this playground, nice features is the sail features for shade. You get 2 sail features here, which gives you quite a nice coverage of shade. These are 12 feet by 12 feet, so they are quite expansive. And then we talked about at the Park Board workshop last week, the request that had been, and I know Kurt particularly liked this idea with the people with less hair than others, I will say, of providing shade over the benches. And so with this one, we have 2 benches next to the playground, and with this one, we did get a cost proposal, which was added into the numbers that the Park Board has right now, and it would have matching sail structures over the 2 shade features. The nice aspect about that is, again, they're large sails, so if you had a young child you wanted to put down on a towel or a blanket or something, it gives you a little bit more than just only over the bench. It's going to extend and cover a little bit more, which I thought was a nice coverage feature. And then the last element, just to mention, is the surfacing. We are proposing in both of the options that we would have poured-in-place surfacing underneath the main playground structure. We have that at Deer Path Preschool Playground, which is behind the rec center. We have small element of it down at the beach at the, at Forest Park. And what's really great about it is it's low maintenance. It has a return on investment after 12 years of versus the wood chips, which require weekly attention by our crews and replenishment annually. And it's really nice, durable, safe aspects for kids, smooth surfaces for running and that kind of thing. The other thing we can do with this in this surface area is we can put some small insets because it's colorized and do like a 4-square play element, or we can do a few more things that give you just versatility on the actual surface there, which we can do pricing wise. We haven't put a lot of them in there, but we could do some of that. And then the other aspect we were looking at here is though putting wood chips still underneath the web and the swing set. And primarily that's a cost-saving measure why we look to do that instead of trying to do the whole playground. And under the web, you don't run underneath it, so you don't scatter and push the wood chips as much. And under the swings, we would have mats that actually are where your feet would hit, because that's usually where kids, when they push off, they kick the wood chips out, and that's where you always have to constantly have staff come back in and rake them back in, and that saves us from having to do that element again of maintenance, so it lowers our maintenance. So this was option number 1, and in your packet, I will go through financials in just a minute. It was a less expensive option, primarily because the fall zone off of a 6-foot deck does not require the same depth of poured-in-place surfacing, so that saves on the cost of the poured-in-place surface materials that we put in the packet and budget for this. Let's see, so then moving to the second option, this was the tall, what we call kind of the more the tall tower feature. And we liked this design option from the fact that it's unique. We don't really have an elevated play structure to this height anywhere in the community. And it is sometimes challenging to install these kinds of play structures when there's large visibility from homes. And this particular park didn't have that. Challenge, and maybe as you would if you put it like at a West Park or where that's completely visible from the homes. So we went with this option. Now the nice thing about this, there is 4 slides off this particular play structure. There's 2 from the high deck, which by the way this is a 12-foot, so 6 foot off the normal ramp, which is basically what the other one was, and then you go up a ladder and you get to this upper level, and that gives you that 12-foot deck, and then this goes up 12 feet, so it's a very tall top to it. It's very safe. It's hard to see here, but these bars are all the way round, so there's no fall potential, out of the upper tower on that. The trade-off, in order to stay within budget, was we don't have as much of the vertical, or horizontal, I should say, connection play pieces. So the main structure itself is the key play elements here, though we have some really nice, again, agility and coordination elements, similar to what you saw on the other. Here's the waffle climb that can go up and up. This is more of the chute with the footholds that you can climb up. And there's a few other similar elements here with the monkey bars that go across kind of thing. Again, showing some play elements in the poured-in-place that we showed on the first option. Benches again, web, same thing, and then the swing sets in the back. This play feature, because of its height, does require that the poured-in-place, instead of being 3.5 inches, goes to 5 inches of poured-in-place surfacing, which is what kicked our price up for poured-in-place as an element of this particular playground. With this one, we recommended with the shade structure a little bit different design, as I put in your packet, and it's would mimic, I think, a little closer the kind of a dome kind of look over the benches. So we didn't think the sails would look right if you didn't have other shade features in this particular park with that. So those are kind of the overview of the different play elements that I can share with you. And then the parking lot, though we're going to come back to playground in just a second, but I just wanted to mention, besides the playground element, we've added a parking lot enhancement option that's being done by our Public Works, and that is we're going to be resurfacing the east lot, and then we're going to add what we call a hammerhead turnaround off the west lot, which is off of Butler. We have had a lot of challenges when there's sporting activities there. They come down Butler to pick up the kids, and there's no way easily to turn around. They're using people's driveways and things. So that would address that and enhance the safety aspect about it. The parking lots would be the last aspect to be done, and that would be done in October, once we finished all the playground work there. And then the other thing we would be doing is some minor tree removal. We have, I'm going to hopefully say this right, Diplodia tip blight on the pines that are adjacent to the current playground. And those current pines, besides that, are crowding out what are some significant quality trees right there. And that would really help them grow a little fuller and give us good shade for that new seating area. And then that tree removal, the other trees would be at the west end of the tennis courts. We planted arborvitae, and they grew up against the fence, so they're really completely dead on the back side, and it looks great from the west, but from the east it looks bad. So we're going to take out those old arborvitae, and we also have had another foundation member who is donating windscreens for the west end of the tennis courts, which will give that wind block that we needed, which is why they planted the trees in the past there. So that will address that issue too. So what does this mean financially? This was a summary that's in your packet of the overall costs. We have two revenue streams for this project, which was the City Council issued general obligation bonds for Waveland Park improvements. We had $200,000 issued, but we've already spent about $122,000 of it for the tennis court portion. So the amount that's up there, the $72,929, is what's remaining to go towards the playground aspect. And then in the Park and Public Land Fund, which is our fund for funding capital, we had earmarked $90,000 to help supplement the different needs that we had at Waveland. And that, of course, is money that comes in from either impact fees or what was remaining from telecommunication tax in the past. So that's how we came up with our revenue number of $162,929. So that's kind of the start to what we had for available aspects of doing the different park improvements. Whoops, sorry. The expense side of it is mentioned down here. So here's option 1, and here was option 2. Again, the key changes in this, they're almost identical when it comes to the equipment costs, because we obviously knew we had to somewhat stay within the ballpark of each other. But the difference is the port in place, which is the $37,921 if we went with option 1, and went up to $50,192 if we went with option 2. And again, that's a different depth there. And then the remaining elements all the way down stay identical for both projects. If we chose to not put the port in place surfacing in, we would need about $7,000 to be left in there for surfacing, and that would be the wood chip portion of it that we would put in there. So looking at these two particular options, option 1 was the less expensive at $149,779, and that left us with a net for the project contingency of potentially $13,000 if for anything additional came up. Option 2 was more expensive because of that port in place, and that left us with a remaining balance there of $1,583, so a much tighter budget to do option 2. So having said that, staff put an option recommendation together for the park board, and obviously we can see pros and cons to both sides of this. And we got some great feedback from the survey, though we didn't have a large response. We only had 42 responses to the survey, which was a little disappointing, mailing out to over 200 homes a couple times. But people gave us some really good feedback of reasons why they liked the two options. Some of them I've already touched upon and why. And staff looked through those and came up with a recommendation that the park board then can discuss and decide what you want to do tonight. But we've chose option 1 because we felt it provided more horizontal play elements, and we thought it was more suitable for young children. I think one of the aspects that the park board asked me to look into was what was happening with Deer Path Middle School's playground. And I did put that in your packet. We did get some information. It's an EVO system, and it's mainly a climbing coordination agility piece. It's supplementing what is already there. And their work started actually yesterday. The trucks are out, and they're starting to install that playground there. So there will be an expanded playground for middle school students right up near Deer Path Park. And so that was one of the things we looked at. The second thing was, though, Cherokee School is in the neighborhood and they have a playground. There are some playground elements. Some of it's fenced in, which is a little more challenging to get to after school hours. But we wanted to make sure that in this neighborhood there were still a good variety of things for preschoolers to do on a playground structure. So that was one of our thoughts. The second thing we had was we knew the survey response was more favorable for option 2. It was 22 votes for option 2 and 17 votes for option 1, so it wasn't hugely different. And then we had a couple people that responded, they didn't vote on the playground because they don't have children that age, but they gave us some feedback on the other park improvements, so that's why it didn't add up exactly. And so that was just so you know where the votes fell that we did get in. We felt with the basketball court coming into the park, we've added something new to that park which will appeal to some of the older ages as well. And we already talked about the middle school having it. Option 1 provided more shade features on the main playground structure, which we have heard a lot of parents who've expressed an interest in that today. I think it's becoming more the norm of making sure there's shade. And then our port in place, we did recommend a port in place because we felt we would get a good return on our investment in 12 years and requires less maintenance on a weekly and annual basis. And it is by far the best surface to accommodate any children in our community with special needs. And at the playground at Deer Path is that same surface, and families in our community, especially those we know through our special recreation partnership, likes that. And then this is a small one, but this will be our first installation project ever done by our parks crew. We sent them and got them trained in doing their own playground installation, which saves a lot of money. As an example, this is a $90,000 equipment parcel, and about $80,000 of it is actually just true pieces, and that's typically how you can ballpark what your installation will be if it's anything that's elevated. Like the school district's doing one, it's $32,000 for their piece, but it's all ground installation. There's no elevated pieces to it, and their installation is $18,000 for that small one section ad that they're doing. So we would be saving about $80,000 by having our own crews do it. As Peter Gordon jokingly said, if we do the tower, it could be the leaning tower of construction, but I have all the confidence in the world that that wouldn't happen. But that would be a much more challenging environment for them to build a structure that is that elevated off the ground for their first project. And then obviously trying to look at it from a fiscal perspective, option number 1 was a less expensive option overall. So having said that, we put this recommendation in your packet for your consideration, that to replace the playground and its associated amenities for a total of $149,779. And we would award the contract to a group called HGAC BUY, which is a national bid company that meets all of our state and local procurement requirements. And then we would do the playground equipment, the surfacing through that, and they would be paid out of those general obligation bonds and our park and public land funds. So that's the gist of the overview that I have, and then I thought I would open it to questions or feedback from park board and see, what, if you have different thoughts or if you like this recommendation.
Questions, comments?
Mary, one of the survey responses we got back was critical of the color and suggested green or tan might be more appropriate. Can you just kind of explain the thought process behind selecting that blue?
We did talk about color. We tried a whole host of options from purple and orange to green and tan, and we looked at different options. And we were looking for something that appeals to children, which color does appeal more to children than the neutrals of green and tan. And then we also thought in this, it's a very gender neutral blue color, which is appealing to the children. And if you want to stretch to the fact that it's kind of a sky color, isn't too wild of a color. We aren't, trying to go out there with a really, obnoxious color scheme. But it doesn't back up to homes, and it does make it a fun feature, and you'll immediately, see it in the park without it being too glaring, we thought. So it was the silver post with the blue, color scheme. There's a couple of the elements in each of the playground designs that only come in one color. The web, as an example, comes in that red. And the little climbing chute that has the foot rocks that you can climb up, that only comes in green and has different multicolored footholds. So that was another challenge, was not to add too many odd colors that would clash throughout the play feature. So that was why we went, with this. So, it was one comment we got. We didn't feel like it was an overwhelming concern or issue for anyone, and so from that, we left it with a blue recommendation, as you saw. But we can change that if, Park Board would want us to do that. We do have a green and tan color scheme at Ellowa Park, and we would do it probably most likely in like our very high visible parks, west or maybe out of town line as an example. Whereas other places, Northcroft is green and gold, and then Deer Path Preschool is bright blue and yellow, and we've got orange at South Park, and we got orange at West Park right now, so we kind of have a mixed bag, throughout town, so.
Yeah, I am a little concerned about the color. Only I stood at Hilldale and Waveland and tried to envision what it would be like in the winter when there's no leaves on the trees. And seeing a big blue thing in the middle of the park is somewhat concerning, as well as for the folks that live on Butler. There's almost three houses that would face into the park.
Okay.
And I do think, even though it's a scout blue, I do think something that would blend more into the landscape might be a better option.
Okay.
I had two other questions. One's more of a clarification. On the expense list, it says the shade elements over the benches. I just wanted to confirm that's two. Is that two shade elements?
2 shade elements. We'll have 4 benches total in the park, 2 that will be over by the tennis and basketball, but the ones we were going to put the shade structures over were really next to the playground, just because of overall cost with that. You can always come back and add shade to the other 2 benches, but we tried to do it for the 2 that were associated with the playground.
Okay, good. And then the excess money that the $13,000 or the $1,500, does that stay with the park, or will that go back into?
If we don't spend that money, it stays in the Park and Public Land Fund for other future park projects. It's not part of the bond. We'd spend the bond money first and then leave that remaining.
Peter talked about planting some trees to add shade. Could we use the money for that?
Yes, we have about 2,500 I added in here since our workshop meeting, that we would do more landscaping, and if we wanted to expand beyond that, that would give us that window to be able to continue to enhance that. So $2,500 actually gets us quite a bit of landscaping, so I think it will look nice, and it will warm up that. It won't just kind of be plopped, in the middle of the field look kind of thing, so.
I like the idea of the 4 squares, putting that in that's huge at the middle school, huge at the 3rd and 4th grade. I mean, the kids love that, and so that would add another older element. I mean, even hopscotch or whatever you can put into that pour and play, I think was a really neat idea, and I think a lot of the kids would really like that.
Okay.
This is just sort of a point of clarification. You talked on the first example about the wheelchair accessibility of the overall structure, and I can envision that pretty clearly with the whole horizontal setup. Are those same considerations taken for example 2?
They would be able to do the connection piece only, but going up the tower would probably be a challenge for them because of the fact it's just, they'd have to use arm strength to get up to the tower level as well. If they have a spotter or somebody who could assist them, then they could get up to the next level of the tower, but they would really primarily be on just that one connection piece.
Okay, and then just a quick point about the softball diamond. You said that the new construction would be moved into the softball diamond. Would there be another diamond constructed somewhere else, or are there just no plans for that right now?
We have 2 diamonds still remaining in the park on the west side, and those would remain, and those do get actively used. The diamond on the east side hasn't been programmed in 3 years, and primarily because girls softball, the numbers aren't as large as they used to be, so we could not have that diamond as much, so.
Any other comments or questions for Mary?
Any cost implications of changing the color?
Yeah.
No, I can
Okay.
do it tomorrow.
So, changing the color, are we looking at changing most of it to tan and having the other elements, or are we looking at green, or?
I would recommend that we go with primarily the green
Okay.
and then put the slides in the tan, only because the slides are easier to blend in tan than to have a big tan thing and then to have these
Okay.
green structures coming out of it. I've seen them lay that out both ways, and I think it just looks a little nicer that way. So we
Okay.
could, I can certainly have that changed, and I can email out to the board the final visual of the colors and see if you like that. But that's, we have actually up to the day we order to change colors.
Okay.
So it's not, once it's in production, we can't, but we can change that. But I'd like to take this on to council, next
Okay.
week, and I would go ahead and ask her to make that color change and get it to you, because I'd rather present, what that would look like. So we could certainly do that. It would change probably what we do a little bit in the port in place, because we were gonna do that blue and green kind of fleck, surface. So
Right.
we'd probably go more with the green and the black and make it, all blend. So that'd be a little different too.
Okay. So, you would like us to make a motion to approve the recommendation. So do I have a motion to approve the recommendation by the, by
Us.
Mary, by us?
By staff.
Changing the color with a different color than not the blue, but going towards the tan color.
Lauren, are you good
And
with that? I
option
know you
one.
love
I-
design number 2.
No, I do like design number 2, only because I have children that are in that age group that are not met by Waveland currently. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. Certainly, even though it was a small survey, it's still 55% of the people want that. But I'm okay with that, because it's fiscally responsible to go with the first option. But I do think, just talking to some of the neighbors in that neighborhood and standing there and looking at where the current softball field is, you would see this big blue thing driving down Waveland, and certainly, as I said, being on Butler. So I do think,
I think the tan will fit in better there.
I think a green would be fine. It would
Okay.
fade in with the canopy, but,
Okay.
of the trees that are behind
Okay.
it. But, leave it to me to put a stick in the mud here,
And I think it's an easy change.
fortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you want me to make that motion then?
Yes, could you make that motion?
All right, that we accept the recommended action from staff for option 1, but that we change the color to green and tan.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's Sally's turn. South Beach Access Road construction. No,
Well, good evening, everyone.
no,
Hello.
it's just, and she doesn't have a
I
presentation.
don't have a PowerPoint presentation tonight. I am here to give you the results of the feedback that I have received since last month about our boater launching situation at the beach that comes with the reconstruction of the South Beach Access Road. After investigation, conversation, and feedback from residents, I have come up with two solutions for our power boaters and our seasonal sailboat storage, as well as our South Beach parking permit users. The two options are to allow our power boat boaters to park a trailer and their boat as well as a personal vehicle in the lower south lot, and to reduce our seasonal fees for those that cannot take advantage of that option. So to reduce the seasonal fees, we would offer a 20% fee rebate to cover that month of September and October. And it would be issued to our powerboat users that do not choose to store their boat and a personal vehicle in the lower south lot, as well as to our South Beach parking users and some of our seasonal sailboat compound and rack storage users. The seasonal customers that choose to leave their sailboats, kayaks, or sailboards will be granted storage until the project is complete. So there will be none of that impoundment issue going on with those boats. And again, access for our year-round storage and those that do choose to leave their boats down could be easily obtained through the upper lots, coming down the stairs, or accessing from the lower north. As to leaving your boat, your trailer, and a personal vehicle to launch with in the lower south lot, we did get feedback from the attorneys. It is a possibility. A waiver certainly would need to be signed, and again, they would have to leave a personal vehicle in that lot for the duration of the project, because that's what they would have to use to launch. What we are going to do is we are going to put together a letter that will be sent to all of our boaters and all of our end users through the mail. We will also do an email blast, and we will post on the website these findings. We're going to get that out to everybody by July 1st. I want to make sure the letter is crafted correctly and the options are laid out. And we're going to ask for our boaters to respond back to us by July 22nd with what option they would like, so that we can get the proper paperwork in order for those that are going to store and get those rebates back to those that are not before the end of the summer. That's where we're at.
How long do you think the project's going to take? How long was that boat and the trailer and the personal vehicle going to be down at the?
The current timeline is the day after Labor Day until December 1st.
Okay.
Now, that is certainly based on weather and any other unforeseen circumstance.
Okay, so almost 3 months.
Almost 3 months.
Okay.
I would mention with that, depending on whether or not, once they get the first course down, for the road, if that, is passable, they may, at that point, we might be able to let people get it up, get their boat, but then why they have to come back in and put a final course down, then they would be having to wait again. But we don't know when that will be,
Right.
so it could be slightly
might be a
shorter,
little
but we'd have
window.
to play that by ear with the window that we would get.
Okay.
And we would certainly use all of the venues I listed, letters, email
Right.
blasts, and the website to let our boaters know. The clientele have been very good about getting us their emails so that we can get information out.
Do you anticipate there being too many people going for that option and not having enough room down at the
I
South
don't.
Beach? Okay.
We have 31 truck and trailer spots with the truck hitched to the trailer. For those boats that are a bit smaller, we could actually separate trailer from truck and use 2 of the slots, the regular parking spots. I don't anticipate that we're going to be overflowing down there, just because I'm not quite certain people will want to leave their personal vehicles on the lower
Okay.
level.
How about issues of one person leaving a vehicle, yet they have permission to use like 3 boats?
Additional waivers will be signed.
Okay.
Everybody will be signing a waiver.
Okay. Okay.
Any other
questions?
questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Okay, on to Deer Path Golf Course.
Different icons for different kinds of slides. Okay, this agenda item is to bring the park board up to speed, as well as the community, on where we stand currently with some information we put together on Deer Path Golf Course and where we're headed next with some of our research that's been requested of us by City Council. And so I wanted to first start by reminding the park board and those at home and here with us tonight that last October we held a community forum on golf, and we covered 3 different areas about golf. The first topic that was covered was golf industry trends, and we had a gentleman from Pellucid come in and speak to us on that and where the industry overall with golf was headed. And primarily what we are seeing is it's a market stagnation really throughout the golf industry, and a lot of courses and stuff are seeing a decline in golf rounds and daily fees, et cetera. The second topic we touched on at that forum was the Fort Sheridan Preserve potential golf course. And, you know, that's been a process that I, as well as the city manager and the mayor, have been involved in for about a year and a half now, to determine whether or not they were going to look at putting a golf option at the Fort Sheridan property. And I will tell you, I was at the meeting this afternoon at the county office for the Lake County Forest Preserve, though the meeting was supposed to start at 11 and it didn't start till almost 2:30 in the afternoon. And so I came back, and Ron Skalski, who was with the Lake Bluff Park District, took over at that point, and he stayed and was part of the meeting. And what was determined today there was that they are going to continue to do their diligence, similar to what you're going to hear we're going to be doing, as far as going out with an RFP to find out if there's any interest in a build and managed option for a 9-hole hybrid course at that site. So it was a close vote actually there, but that is what they decided to do today. So they're going to be putting together an RFP and a design build option that they're going to put out to the industry as well to see whether or not they have any interest in that and whether it makes financial sense for them. And then they'll make a decision, I think, once they get that information back as to whether or not they move forward. So that was topic 2 in October, and now the update. The third topic that we covered at that meeting was really an overview where Deer Path Golf Course actual performance was for the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to touch on that here in just a minute. So we really tried to give an understanding of, you know, industry trends, what's happening in our area, and specifically what was happening with Deer Path Golf Course. Since that time, we then moved forward with working with the National Golf Foundation, which is a bipartisan organization that really does research and trend analysis and assist different entities, whether it's private or public, you know, throughout the country on different analysis and work for their golf course. And we asked them to come in and do an operational review of Deer Path Golf Course and give us some feedback on what they saw comprehensively. Prior to this, we had done a cost of services analysis only, which just really looked at our pricing structure for our fees and really didn't have that comprehensive look. So that's why we went with the National Golf Foundation to help us do that. The next several slides is an executive summary pulling out elements from a report we received from them, which is 52 pages long, and we will be posting that on the city's website next week. So people can go under the website, go under Parks and Recreation, and then the Deer Path Golf Course page, and you'll find this report that will be there. And we're also going to have the 6-year fiscal performance chart that you're going to see here tonight too will be posted as well. So this is some of the findings that the National Golf Foundation found out for our facility, and it was a very positive report, I'll say up front. I do agree and believe wholeheartedly that we have an outstanding golf course operation. We are in certainly a lot better shape than a lot of courses in our area, and that is part of what you're going to hear coming back. However, that's not to say we don't have some challenges, and that's the discussion of how best to address those. But here's some of the facility findings. They said the facility was in good working condition overall. They didn't see any glaring, areas that we've got to immediately jump on as far as a facility. There was a high quality maintenance operation. They did come out, unfortunately, in the winter. However, they had been in this area previous to that, but they spent time with Tom and going out on the course, and were very impressed with the quality of our maintenance. They did recommend that we might want to look at, for the future, the concept of adding a full cart path so that we could always use carts on even more of the kind of questionable weather days. But they would say you'd have to verify whether that's going to return the cost on doing something like that, and then whether or not our golfers would like that, because it does impact, the look and the feel of the course. And as we know, golfers like to drive to their balls anyhow, so the question, that all those trade-offs would have to be looked at. But they suggested that would be a possible option for a facility that for ours that we don't have. And the last thing they had touched on was the clubhouse, is consistent with comparably priced courses in the area. It wasn't overbuilt in size. It is a small functional clubhouse. From the golf operations aspect, we actually do fall below the national average in full-time equivalents for staffing. And we have for full-time equivalents of 15.45 employees, and the national average is 22.5. So we actually have a very small staff for what we do try to accomplish out there. We only have 3 full-time employees right now, all the rest are seasonals. And then the National Golf Foundation states here that they didn't feel we could reduce our staffing any further without, jeopardizing the quality, but that where we are challenged is our compensation and benefits are typically higher than what they see maybe in the private industry. And part of that, we did address this past year as we came into this golf season. We did reduce our seasonal wages $3 to $4 per hour because we found that over the years they'd gotten out of scale with really what we should be paying for that. And we will see some benefit, and that is reflected already in this year's budget to have those reduced wages in there. But the reduced wages isn't necessarily keeping pace with what we're seeing as decline in rounds, but it is helping. Then the last item they touched on was the food and beverage margin, which they felt we were priced and appropriate for the type of operation we have. Our average was $4.75 to $5 per round, and the national average is $5.88. So again, our food and beverage operation they felt was priced right and very good quality. Marketing, though, was an area of operational deficiency, and I know Kurt, we touched on that at the workshop this past Thursday, and it is an area that we are still continuing to focus on, and we currently budget $12,185, and the recommended range is anywhere from $13,000 to $40,000 for a typical comparative course. So we are a little bit low in our marketing money. Again, it's trying to find the way to pay for all of that and see what kind of return we'd get on it. I am working on doing a new website, which we hope to have up on July 1st, and that would be a much more interactive quality website. Ours currently is more just a billboard of current prices. This would allow us to do email notice to our golfers. It would allow us to give weather updates. It would allow us to put a club of the week on there and kind of promote some of our sales in the pro shop. So a lot more quality functional website than what we currently have, and it was something we could enter into with a month-by-month contract, so we aren't in a long-term commitment with it. The time really was more from a staff in right now of getting all their information into a website format and working with them. So we're trying to finish that up right now. Currently, pass holders are 55% of our play. Leagues are 6% of our total rounds. So pass holders by far are a more significant market, but we are fortunate to have leagues at our course, and they do run over multiple days of the week. And our revenues were above the national average in 2009, but then so were our expenses, and part of that was our wages and pension and things like that. At Deer Path Golf Course, it costs $35 for us to produce a round of golf, and the national average is $30. And again, those are some of the areas that we have to look at and see if there's a way to lower those costs. Though, again, we've started to address some of that with wages, but if we increase marketing and we increase other expense sides of that, that may not necessarily allow us to get that lower down to the 30, closer to that national average. And then the market, the external market and competitive factors that they looked at is we have to realize that there's 13 golf facilities within 5 miles of the Deer Path Golf Course, and 5 of them are public. So that's our competition. It is fierce in this area, and that we have to, that's why we need to stay current with things that we offer and, continue to be aggressive in our marketing. The future market growth opportunities they identified for us were women and minorities. Golfers are shifting to shorter, less expensive rounds, and we've talked about that. People just don't have as much time anymore to do 18 holes, and we need the 9-hole market, or even some places are looking as little as like a 5-hole round or something like that. And then a lot of individuals have said to me, well, why don't you do more outings or do more tournaments and, bring in that kind of money? But the industry is showing that even those right now are struggling, and they're seeing less and less of that. I know the local chambers Bears outing was canceled a week ago because they just didn't have enough enrollment for that. So everybody's struggling a little bit with that aspect. So that used to be an opportunity to help drive revenue, and it's not as much of an opportunity now. Deer Path Golf Course is priced in the upper half of the courses in our market area. We have been continuing with annual fee increases. We are unique in that perspective, and I still think it's essential that we do that to help us keep pace with our expenses. And that, but our season pass is the best average per round value in the area. However, we raised our prices 6 and 10% this year, depending on early bird versus late, and we are down in pass sales. So we had some individuals who told us they left the course because we raised our fees, and I'm not sure that we're gaining enough new members sometimes to offset that. So finding that right balance is part of our challenge with our pricing right now. And then the National Golf Report, they didn't address possible impacts to and benefits to potentially coming our way if other courses around us were to close. And we know there's been rumblings about some of our neighboring communities with worse performing golf courses right now, and they might change something. But since we don't know that right now, we don't know when that would occur, they were not able to factor that into this report. And also the Fort Sheridan, they didn't necessarily factor it in as a given. However, they know that adding more options in this area will impact us, and about 36% of our rounds are 9-hole rounds. That's pretty significant. You can see the change where we've gone from 18 to 9-hole rounds. So if they add a 9-hole course, it will have an impact on a third of our rounds that we have. Then the next area was really continuing with our operational considerations. Our revenue projections on an as-is basis would continue to produce deficits for us, so we have to grow our rounds or we have to do something different from the expense side. They identified that we have some municipal challenges compared to private industry. We've got slow bureaucracy response to, like, website design is a great example of trying to make it fit with the whole city's website design, and sometimes we have to wait in order to make some of those things happen. Our budget constraints, personnel policies, we are mandated by the state on the pensions that we have to provide all employees in the city. We can't do something different from the golf course compared to what we do with other employees in the city. So that's a challenge for us. We do sometimes lack the specialized marketing experience that private industry that focuses solely on this might potentially bring. We have procurement laws, which are different, like prevailing wage. If you do some of your work, if you're private, you don't have some of that prevailing wage mandates. And, we have a lack of flexible incentives for employees. Private industry sometimes will do, like for lessons, they'll give them for every, if you can drive new lessons, you'll get, a portion of the profit, commissions and things like that. We really haven't been very flexible about looking at those kinds of things, primarily for consistency and the difficulty of managing that. But, and then they said, the National Golf Foundation says that they don't think our finances would be significantly improved with private management. However, they did some, applications and scenarios in this report, and, they would feel that the best way to confirm that is to do the RFQ, to know that. And without that piece of data, we don't really have that ability to say one way or the other what is the best option going forward. So they recommended that we still do the RFQ. This next chart on here, and I apologize, it might be hard to read at home, but I'll just kind of walk everybody through it really quickly. This is a chart which we will have on the website, and basically it's a chart from 2005 through 2010 for Deer Path Golf Course. So this is strictly Deer Path Golf Course. And just wanted to mention the first two rows, it's a number of paid rounds and then the total pass holder rounds. And when you start looking at it from 2005 and going out through 2010, we have seen a gradual decline of our rounds. This last year, we were at 32,666 rounds, and our highest year was actually in 2007, which is when we had 39,000 rounds, 481. But it's been 38, 39, then it's gone to 34, 35, 32. So we've been going down in rounds, and prior to 2005, 2005, we were usually hovering in the 37 to 38,000 rounds. So I haven't really been back in that area except for 1 year on that. To go down to 32,000 rounds last year, which was primarily a good weather summer, is a little concerning. But having said that, then the next aspects of this chart is the financial. So we start up here with really all of our revenues, then we go into our expenses, and then we come down here to really what was our income before debt and capital. And the good news with that, when you look at that, those are good numbers, anywhere from 297,000 net, dropping down though to 168 last year. However, the golf course is considered an enterprise fund. So then you have to add in our debt, which we have debt on the course because we did improvements in 2005 with the irrigation systems and sand traps and some things there. And we have the debt then that was on the course. And then we also have capital. So the next two lines really on this show our debt payments and our capital. And so when you factor that in, 3 of our 6 last years, we actually operated at a deficit. We did that in 2006, 2008, and 2009. And this year, that we just finished April 30th, we ended up with $1,400 to the plus side net, but we did not have to pay to do the improvements for the roofs at the clubhouse or the cart barn. We were fortunate in that the city had already issued debt on behalf of roof replacement in the city, and the bids came in so low that they were able to extend that vendor to do other roofing projects, because that's a like project, and they were able to help the golf course out. But if you were to factor that in, we would have been in a significant deficit year. So that was one of the capital items we had coming up in about 2 years. If we could have waited that long, we weren't sure we could wait that long because it was pretty bad, that we didn't have to pay out of the golf course budget. So having said that,
Hey, Mary, before
Yeah.
we leave that.
Yeah.
The amount of capital we spent in 2010 was significantly less than we had been spending
right,
over the years, which suggests to me that there's probably some stuff that's been deferred that's
That is
on
correct.
the horizon. What kinds of projects are facing us?
we have some aging mowers and things like that. So we have some, equipment that has to be replaced, and they are not cheap, unfortunately. Anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000 for these large mowers and things that we need to do. We've got a great mechanic, Gil, who babies the equipment and has stretched some life out of them. But we do think we have some equipment coming up. It's probably 2 years out. We've got a few pieces, and I didn't put it in this report tonight, but the park board has seen before and we did it at that October meeting of the next 5 years. But it is still a minimal amount of capital, but there could be some emergencies that could come up. The city requires a 15% reserve amount that we have to maintain in our funds for emergency purposes. We are currently slightly below the 15% reserve because we used part of it to purchase the golf carts, if you recall, 3 years ago. So we're not bad. We still have a reserve fund, but we're just slightly under the 15%. But we do have a reserve right now for the golf course to help us in the event we do end up with years where we have losses. The concern is future trending. If we could keep pace, and we'll have to start spending that down, and that's going to be a problem.
Mary?
Yeah, sorry.
It's 15% of the operating expenses? or-
15% of our revenues. So I'm trying to think
So
of that.
1.4 million, basically.
Yeah, so you've got to do, it's like 100, I want to say 180,000 around that range for our net reserve requirement. So again, I think this chart speaks well to the quality of our operation, because a lot of courses aren't able to keep pace right now, and we are keeping pace, which is a really great aspect. However, the enterprise fund model, which has been to support and pay for all of its own needs based off the users and the fees coming at the course, most likely can't be sustained, and that's the challenge, I think. Now I want to say in March, we did make a recommendation to council to consider having any changes from an enterprise fund to a fund within the rec department, and allow any gaps for, and capital needs to be considered as part of the recreation fund, and change its category. It is something that's still a possibility, but they, as you know, requested that we still do an RFQ look, because they wanted to make sure everything was considered. So,
You said earlier that we're facing operational deficits in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be helpful if we could see a forward-looking view of these
Okay.
numbers, what our forecasts are.
yeah, I did
Support
put that
that.
together for council for March. I can get that to you as well. And we can put that on the website.
That'd be good.
Yeah, we did, why we did that in March was we factored in the reduced wages, and, because that changed from what we did in October, and we showed the community, because it actually made us look a little bit stronger from that perspective. However, we also had to go in and adjust our rounds, because we were a little concerned we might be too high on our projections of rounds. So the trade-off was it's a better window than what we showed in October, but the capital and the debt is the challenge. So we can put that together. And I know, Kurt, you had asked me to, help make sure we cover all of that between now and when we look to our final, options. So we have all that put together for you.
Mary, earlier you had indicated that the national average is $30 and Deer Path is $35. What are the local averages? Because the national average, I could see where it would be significantly lower. But is there a more accurate geographic average we could use?
I'd have to look at the report. I think it was in the report. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I believe they did do a regional and national average in
How
that
do we
report.
fit with the regional then?
What's that?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out why we're 15% higher. If it's just because we're comparing it to a national figure, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're 15% higher and we have fewer staff, where's the gap?
Well, I think, we're 15% hired. We have fewer staff, but we have higher expenses for our staff, because the number of staff doesn't necessarily equate to the actual expense amount. So,
Well, can we see some more detailed staffing costs then, to get an
Sure.
idea of what's going on? And when you do the staffing costs, you have, some of the staff costs are under salaries, and then some of the staff costs are under contractuals, like workman's comp, unemployment, that's all under a staff cost.
Correct.
So, but it's under a contractual, which I don't understand why. But if we could get a breakdown to figure out, I mean, are we just paying our staff a significant higher percentage, even including the fact that there are less staff? I'm just curious what those numbers are.
One of the challenges we have is that our unemployment costs, because once we release our staff for the season, they then can file for unemployment, and we are paying them for all the months that they aren't working for us. So we've been trying to kind of stretch that with keeping them a little bit longer in the season, but less hours at the end of the season, so we don't end up maybe getting hit with as much of the unemployment costs. But that's an expensive aspect for us. The IMRF and the, if they work enough hours, they have a minimum of 1,000 hours annually with us. We're mandated to provide them in Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund insurance, so they do get that pension. So those are the kinds of things that do add up for us, but I can certainly, try to get you the
Yeah,
detail
I'd like as
on
much
the
detail as
personnel.
possible.
Sure.
Thanks.
Just to pile on to what Dan's comment, I would expect to see line items on here for things like fuel and electricity and fertilizer and water and all the other operating elements that make up the golf course, and I don't see that here. So could we have that detail as well?
They've lumped those together with our contractuals, just for simplicity of laying out this chart, but we could give you we have the detail line item budgets that show all of those, so we could certainly share that with you.
Yeah, in the spirit of trying to get to the heart of where we do potentially have opportunity to take more cost out, it's helpful to see that level of detail.
Yeah, we can certainly give that budget detail. I will say that we are try to be as lean and mean as we possibly can,
understand, yeah.
and Tommy is holds off on chemical orders until we're sent, they're essential kind of thing. But we're always trying to look at ways. And I know one of our other big items is our water, our cost for water. We've talked about that one before too. So,
Has there been any more discussion on marketing? I mean, either we have to work on the expenses or the revenues. So if we get the detail, we can take a look at that. But if we're not spending enough for marketing, maybe there's a way we can attract more rounds.
we had done some new things this year and shared a little bit at the workshop. I know that you weren't at, Dan, but we've done some more events that we're hosting, like the wine tasting, Grandparents' Day. We are in a Groupon coupon book, like the big Groupon, so we're in that this year. We already have our own coupon program that we've been in to, helps us promote special discount days. We've joined with the Conway Park Office Association to have a link to our website. We provide luncheon specials for them. We brought Richard in, who's doing the new corporate and youth lesson and camp program to bring in more lessons and revenue from that side of the business. And then we've done a little bit more with our pro shop too, to encourage them to help us with some promos and demo days that are out at the course. The biggest thing we probably need to do is try to find the regional ways to get daily fees and drive daily fees, to our course. And that is where we were trying to do the Groupon or the coupon and having a better website so that when you go to search for a golf course to play at, we actually show up as an option, certainly if they search by region. So that's one of the new website features. The company that we'll be working with is helping us be better positioned when people do searches for golf course play. So we have made some changes for this year, and we're hoping that will pay off, and we're still continuing to focus on probably more. But
Is there a successful or an extremely successful golf club that's in the area that we could see who they're using for their marketing firm?
I have talked with a few, and everybody, again, it kind of depends on what software company they're using, has abilities. I actually think Lake Bluff has a good marketing aspect with theirs because they have, it's your birthday and you get an email on your birthday to come play, and they have some other able blast abilities, and currently our software provider for our online tee times doesn't offer that. But with the new website that we're moving to in July, we would be able to finally have those kinds of features to be able to do that. I know the Glen Club and some of the others, they're very high-end and they have a very large marketing budget, but that's, I think, an example of a company that is private, and they do a good job with the marketing from that
Are they
perspective.
doing direct mail, or what type of marketing other than using the web portal? What type of marketing are they doing?
Well, they do direct mail. They do have information that goes out to like the Village of Glenview's website, the Park District of, the Glenview Park District's website. They have some links and things like that. They have a huge outing and wedding business that comes there because they have a banquet hall associated with it, so they offer specials. You can stay at the Glen Club, and they have rooms that you can stay as a hotel, so there's options if you're staying there to also play golf. So they really have a little bit different package. I've only talked with a few park district directors. There's actually a meeting in July. We all meet together and kind of talk about our different areas and stuff. And a few that I have talked with is they're having to cut their budgets, and they are cutting marketing, which is the double-edged sword. Because they just have to find ways that they have to pay their staff, they have to pay their utilities, they have to, get fuel. So some of those are the areas that tend to get cut. So that's where you're seeing some pull back from that, and that's the challenge, especially if they're still, like us, identified as an enterprise fund, so. But I will continue to look, Dan, for some other good examples, because we can certainly always do more than, do better than we're doing. Again, it's a challenge to get it all put in place and get it all implemented, so.
Along the lines of food and beverage, that's the one place that we increased steadily. Does that correlate in 2008 with the changeover in food service?
It is, and that's a flat lease that they pay to us. We had an escalating fee in there, and that's why you saw it go up slightly. But we actually, held flat on that because they are struggling too. When rounds go down, sometimes there's less golfers that are doing food and beverage there. And it's really a challenging area to get and attract somebody to do food and beverage because it's very weather dependent. It's spurts in the morning, then long gaps in the afternoon sometimes. So it's not a real highly profitable aspect on when you have an operation our size. If you have the ability to do banquets and catering, big events with an association with a golf course, it's a little more appealing. So I'm actually thrilled with who we do have. I think Doug and Derek do a great job. They, have talked with me that they really don't feel they could give any more to us from a fee perspective because they just, are struggling at times to cover all their expenses. They're fortunate they have a secondary site that helps them. They can flow staff, between the two or pull staff down and or double, when they're doing ordering, they can group their orders and stuff. So that does help them out a little bit with that. But
How have we been with our golf outings and things? I know the trend is down, but have we?
our
Have we
outing
seen a
numbers
major
are the
shift?
same,
They're the same?
but we don't do a lot of what I would call big outings. We're more in the 50 range and lower for our golf outings. Partly so we have less impact on the regular players at the golf course, and the volume of leagues we have, would be disrupted if we tried to do a lot with outings. Though, we're trying to do a little bit more, we've got some fluctuating sizes now. People are coming to us and saying, I might have 50, I could have 100. We aren't quite sure where that's all going to end up, and they're waiting to kind of see where they're going to be. So we just 100 is a little bit of a challenge for us, depending on the day of the week and what they need for food.
Do you know off the top of your head, what is the slowest day of the week?
Our slowest day is really Wednesdays. Yeah, we have leagues out there though. I'm sure, yeah. So, but after that, it's the midweek. We just don't see it as much on that day. So,
I have a question about leagues. You have a league fee, so you pay a fee to join the league. Do you also pay for the round when you come to golf that morning too, or is your league fee what you pay and that's it? You pay for the round.
yeah.
So you don't have a league fee, you just pay for the round.
You
You
pay
have,
the league fee and you have a round fee.
so you do pay two different fees.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, have you thought about, we have Conway Park right there, about getting those businesses and doing some evening after-work 9-hole leagues? With getting some of those businesses to come in and with some groups like that?
We have talked with Ernie, who's the president of that, and asked if we could kind of promote that. He's not opposed to it, but they get bombarded with so many potential options and stuff that,
It's so close, and it's such a
he
great
said I would
course.
prefer that it was more the link and the other aspects. They don't see as much after work interest. People get in their cars and they're commuting home, so he said that really isn't a huge market for them, but it's still something we could continue to talk with them. The other thing we did do is we got listed at the hotel that's out on Route 60, so we're in there when people check in and they go into their rooms, we're on the option for a golf option from them locally. So we did get put in that as an example of trying to find ways to kind of, put ourselves in front of, daily fee kind of users. But, we'll go back. We do meet with, we met with Ernie last, probably 3 weeks ago. We had another meeting, we tanned him into that, and that's where we talked about making sure the links were in place this year for continuing to promote them to come out at lunchtime and, get the bucket of balls and lunch and know or play holes with us, so.
Has the Groupon ad gone out yet? Or is it just you're on hold right now, waiting? to
There's a variety of courses that are in it, and we get into a schedule that way. I think we are might be next week, or it's the week after the 4th of July. I'm not sure which one.
Is there
But
anything?
You don't have
that-
it all, it doesn't happen all the time,
Is there anything that can be done with Costco? There's a bazillion people walking through that place. That's right
No, we
around the
could
corner.
look. I haven't thought of that one, so.
Mary, to go back to the marketing thing, obviously there's some minimum threshold that you need to, just basic stuff you need to do, but, I wonder if anyone sort of looked at the efficacy of, so the bottom end of the national average is like 13,000, and that's pretty close to where we are, but, so if we were to put $10,000 more into marketing, it's hopefully done right, you know, has anyone looked at, or have there been any studies to say, yes, you get that back, or is it really diminishing returns? I mean, as you say, courses are looking at cutting their marketing budgets because it's easy. And I guess the other way is if you start cutting your marketing, does that show up right away, or even as time goes on?
I haven't had a recent conversation with the National Golf on that, though when we first started the project with them back in January and we're chatting, that is where they were saying why people weren't putting quite as much money towards their marketing, because they were throwing everything out there and still not seeing a response necessarily. It is a challenging time for so many reasons, economy-wise, discretionary income, golfers. So everybody is struggling, whether it's the, you know, Hilton Head or it's the municipal course. It is a challenge right now, but whether or not they actually have some additional data on that, I'd have to find out from him, but I'll ask that too.
Mary, over the past few years, we have raised the fees for the pass holders, and we've had them leave. Have you seen pass holders come back the next year? And have we asked them, okay, what made you come back? Did you not find, you know, what are their reasonings for coming back if they have?
We did the membership satisfaction survey this past fall, and we did get a good return rate on that. And overall, I mean, people really think we have a quality product, and that's what they were saying coming back wise. We didn't necessarily ask the price question because we knew that we've been increasing our prices. We've heard different opinions. Some golfers say they would happily pay more, and we've had other golfers say, you raise it, we're gone, you know, we're done. So finding that balance, again, we haven't necessarily gotten into the actual price threshold for our questionnaire,
But pass holders who may have left last year decided, oh, it's too much, and then for some reason they came back this year when it's even higher. Have we seen any of those coming back?
No.
Or once they're gone, they're gone, they haven't been coming
for
back?
the most part, we've had a couple, like, I would have to ask Chris for specifics if that actually happened, but I know early in the season, we were talking about who's renewed, who hasn't renewed kind of thing. And what we always hear is, we're gonna leave, we're gonna go to the neighboring course, and, you know, we hear they're gonna do that, and then permanent tee time comes around, and then, you know, they're maybe back in the fold, you know, from that perspective. So what we saw this year was that those who said they were, or might have left us, they came back with the 20 punch card option that we offered this year. That was a new feature, and we did that to attract people who have a membership in other nearby golf courses who want to just come on an occasional basis and play Deer Path and maybe bring a friend with them, as well as to allow those who can't play on a frequent basis to have a better pricing option. And so that's where we saw, you know, we lost memberships, but we did pick up in that 20 punch pass. It's a lesser price though than a membership, so the revenue wasn't equally offsetting. We were still took a dip in our revenues because of that. But I was thrilled we had that option because it kept and attracted some people that way. So that's where I think we saw if they had left us before and they are coming back because they don't have that full commitment of a membership. And I think, you know, that's, we also had the 9-hole bucket and punch card that some people like too, and we saw a good response to that this year as well.
Mary, do any of the golf courses on the off days offer a reduced fee or anything as an incentive to play on those days? Like
It's
if
not
we know-
usually on a day, but they do, we have our reduced fee starts in the afternoon. So, you know, we drop our prices after 4 o'clock, you know, to play the golf course. So it's a little lesser fee. So, and weekends are prime, of course. Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention with our report here too is that is one thing also that I give a lot of credit to our staff, is that we are not discounting to the point that we are having just driving golfers to the course and not covering our expenses. And that's where a lot of the courses around us are getting themselves into trouble. When they're allowing you to come play for $18, you know, for an 18-hole round of golf course during the prime time, thinking that will bring bodies back on repeat visits. They're not seeing that happen, and all they've done is basically put more wear and tear on a golf course with less money. And our staff have been really good about being strategic about when we reduce and when our coupons hit. And the National Golf Foundation was very, very positive about our balance on that. So moving forward, where we are, we're still in this diligence phase that was requested of us. We've done the operational review, which we just talked about, and obviously I'll follow up with some additional information to put together for the park board, and we can also help, put some of it on the website. We have issued an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, and that is an invitation to potential companies out there that do private management of golf courses to find out if they would have an interest in meeting and managing the Deer Path Golf Course. It could be all of the operation, it could be a portion of the operation. We've left that reasonably open to hear what the industry out there has an interest in. And from that, then we can kind of narrow that down. And I know the word privatization is concerning at times, however, that is how the food services is run, and it's integrated in a way that it just feels like it's all seamlessly part of us. But with, if it's a comprehensive privatization, then those are the kinds of details we'd have to work out as we would move forward. But right now, the RFQ is just to find out companies' interest in making sure that we would have quality companies to move farther forward, to have, conversations as to what they could bring to the table if they were to actually do it specifically for Deer Path Golf Course. So we issued that on June 8th. We used the database that was provided by the National Golf Foundation. It's a national database. So we know that it went out broad-based because we didn't want to be in a situation where we hand-picked companies or looked at we didn't make it available to everyone. So it went out to a lot of companies. And we've already been bounced back a few that are like, we are only in Hawaii. We're only interested if we can develop residential homes adjacent to it. Do you have that kind of property development? We said no. So we know that list is going to dwindle down, and we've also put some minor requirements into the RFQ. You have to have managed at least 5 courses in this regional area. You have to provide us with a marketing plan and examples of that you have a quality marketing, program. We've asked for them to have a minimum, have a financial portfolio that could demonstrate that they have the wherewithal to help us, to get started and to be with us for a long-term partnership. So we put some of those kinds of things in there. We're going to give companies about a month here to return those RFQs. And at that point, we have what we call the golf committee, which would go through all of those proposals to determine if we have quality companies and if we'd want to continue down, to look at this. And the golf committee at this point, we have, the city manager has put this together, is 2 city aldermen, 2 park board members, which we talked at the workshop last Thursday, which would be Kurt Volkman and Michelle Green. And Michelle's a golfer at the golf course. I know Kurt played in the foundation outing, very poorly he says, but he played. The city manager obviously plays at the course quite often, so he's very familiar with it. And then the 2 aldermen is Alderman Morsch and Alderman Waldeck, who is now the Park and Rec liaison to the Park and Rec board. So, and then in addition to those 4, it would be Bob Kiley and myself, and then Chris Marzelik. We feel Chris knows the day-to-day operations. He knows from a golf pro perspective what to help us sift through in these proposals and identify some of those strengths and weaknesses, from the golfer, what he knows our golfers would be wanting and looking for as well. So now, if there was, I know we had a request, I think, at the workshop to look at adding potentially members from our actual golfers from the golf course, and that would be Bob Kiley's purview, and I forwarded those emails on to him for his consideration. He's out of town this week, so I don't know where that will stand, but that's a possibility. It is important that we have a small enough group, these proposals come in, that we can get them, screened well and get them narrowed down to determine whether or not we've got a good quality group to continue forward. Having said that, then what we would do if that was the case, we would go into what's called the request for proposal phase, which would then ask them, we like you. You are potentially a quality company. We want to know what would you do for Deer Path Golf Course. And that's where they would put specifics to it. So we start out very broad-based, bring it down to specifics of Deer Path Golf Course. What we are bringing, those would come in then during the month between July and August. And then on August 30th, we would have a public information meeting at the Gorton Community Center, obviously to hold, as many people as we could possibly have. We know it should be well attended, similar to the concept we did last October. But at this meeting is where we would then share the findings and the research that we've brought in to date and then get feedback from the golfing community about what they're hearing for the first time, so that then we could report that to City Council at their September 6th meeting and get more direction from them. Do they want us to continue to look at privatization? Do they not want us to look at it? You know, Park Board would have an opportunity to say what they feel, you know, should be a next step. You know, Park Board doesn't recommend going in that direction. You know, you would have that opportunity to share that with council as well. So we'd put public comment out there and the Park Board's feedback on where we should go next. And then council would decide if we continue to move forward after that September 6th date, you know, ask the Park Board to do more diligence, and then we would come back in October, hopefully, to make a decision. And we're trying to keep this moving along. We know it's anxiety aspect for our golfing community, as well as it's important that we don't let so much time goes by that the data we get in from these companies and stuff isn't, you know, relevant anymore. So we are trying to keep this tight timetable. The other reason for it is that with Chris Marzellik retiring from, you know, the course, we need to kind of have a game plan in place for the next season, because by November, we need to know who's going to be responsible over the winter for taking care of the maintenance of equipment or doing the prep on the course that happens during winter. We need to get our marketing materials together so new member, you know, sign up for the next golf season goes out in January. So we're trying to get answers so we know if we're going to self-manage, you know, private manage. I think Mayor Lou, who's here tonight, mentioned a 501c3 option, which, you know, we'll, you know, look at that as well. I know I've had a couple individuals who aren't companies that have expressed an interest. I told them, send us your proposals. We'll take it into consideration, even if it doesn't quite fit the RFQ we have out there. You can always submit it, and then we'll have to look at whether we think it's a viable option or not. So that's kind of where we are with the schedule.
Hey, Mary, you touched on this, and I just wanted to repeat it. It has to do with the confusion over the word privatization. We are not talking about taking our public course and making it a private club.
Correct.
Correct?
That is
It will
correct.
be a
It
city-owned
remain a
course.
public course.
It will be a municipal course. The question is, how will we manage it going forward?
Correct.
Will it continue to be city employees, or could it possibly be a private enterprise? That's
Good.
all we're talking about,
That's a good
correct?
distinction, thank you. Yes, that's very important. It is not turning our course into a private course, private
Okay,
golf course.
thanks.
I think the other thing, just to mention to you, is that the course was a gift from the Dick family to the city to be maintained as a public golf course. So if we didn't want to have golf there, it would revert back to the Dick family for their decision on what they would do with that property. So again, we're not talking about changing the intent of the property at all. We're looking at how do we keep a public golf course here for the community and how best to manage it. So just wanted to clarify that too.
Thanks.
Other questions for the park board?
Any questions? No? Thanks.
So committee work will continue going forward, and I know Michelle and Kurt will meet, and I'll get some specifics for you as far from the committee perspective, but I'll get out additional details either on the website and to the park board about some of the questions that you've had tonight from this report. So we'll continue to work on that for you. I know you have.
Do you want to do your director's report, or do you,
What's that?
director's report?
Do you
Or
want to
do
see if
do
there's
public
anyone from the
comments now?
public on this topic? Do you guys wanna come up
Do we
and
have any
questions,
participation? Questions from the audience, comments? Okay.
I need water.
That's okay. You know,
All right.
can I just want to say, we wanted to thank you again for coming to our meetings last Thursday, and we recognize your concerns, as well as we probably share some of your concerns about the process that's going on. And we may not all be convinced at this time that this is the right way to go, or the right avenue to go down, or something we want to do in the future. But we have been asked by the city council to continue with the steps and do the complete diligence. So we are just doing what we've been asked to do by the council. We're looking at everything so we can have all the best information in front of us to make the most informed decision and the best decision for our community as well. But we did hear you, and we are listening to you. So you're welcome. Okay. Second.
Okay, just a few things on the director's report. I'll jump actually to the one that's up on the screen, is the Concerts in the Square, which is an event that we now help offer to the community. And this Thursday is our first concert in the square, which is going to be Final Say. It's pop and rock, and we really have a great turnout typically for there. They're free, and they're run from June 16th to August 4th, as you can see up here. And you know, I want to just, again, there's so many little things I don't think the community realizes that our parks crew and forestry crews do, but all the kinds of setup for things like this, the barricades, the trash cans, the stage elements, I mean, they assist with all of that. I mean, the new farmer's market, we're bringing the picnic tables to the square every Thursday with barricades and extra barrels, and it has to be hauled away at the end of the day to set up then for the concerts that evening. So there's a lot of like prep work that happens by our parks crew. But we're really excited to be, again, to offer this, and Dan Duell's got this great lineup for the whole year, which is up there for you. And so hopefully everybody will come out and enjoy that concert in the square.
Can you find this on the website for people who can't see it?
Is it on the it is on the
Okay.
website. Okay, good. Okay, and then some other things going back on the agenda is we did hire our new superintendent of parks and forestry. I'm excited to announce, and his name's Chuck Myers, and he's going to start next Tuesday, the 22nd. And Chuck comes from the Lake County Forest Preserve District. His most recent position with them is Assistant Superintendent of Natural Operations. He has his bachelor's in geology and environmental sciences, and he's got his special project to finish. He's finishing his master's in recreation administration. He has a great background on managing natural areas. That's really what his last 16 years focus has been. He is an international arborist, certified arborist. He is also trained to do controlled burns. He has been very involved in the Des Plaines River Trail project, as an example, is one of his. And he's assisted with a variety of like small park aspects that they've done in the Forest Preserve with some playground replacements and things like that too. So I think he's going to be a great addition. We're very excited to have him, come on board with us. And so we're going to get him going probably very quickly on some of our projects that are, in the parks area, and get him up to speed. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. We will also be posting this Friday the Superintendent Special Facilities position, which is a new position that we're splitting up a lot of our facilities under, special facilities separate from traditional recreation programs. And we'll hopefully have hiring going on and interviews going on the end of July, and hopefully have that person on by end of August. So working on that. The next item I wanted to mention to you is a bicycle master plan, and this was brought to City Council for their support and recommendation that we continue to move this forward. At the ward meetings that happened this past year, a number of residents wanted the city to really look at opportunities to enhancing primarily east-west travel, which is challenging in this community with state roads, and as well as our old lanes, which are somewhat narrow, and there's not a lot of buffer area on each side of it. To look at opportunities for enhancing that, as well as understanding how we connect through our bike trail systems throughout the whole county. And green, I think, is just very important. So the staff then met, and we really did feel that it was something that we would like to get a comprehensive plan put together, so that when opportunities might come up, whether it's grants or whether or not we're replacing a street and we wanted to know that that potentially could be a bike corridor, that we can take those things into consideration when we do the reconstruction, and we could expand the width or share the road opportunities or whatever those might be. And our department will be participating in this comprehensive bike plan. And I think it's a good arsenal thing to have in our arsenal, and that ties in nicely that the county is also doing a comprehensive county bicycle plan. So we're just making sure that we get all the pieces of that researched and put together. And there's a variety of ways to approach it, and we're going to look at it. Pecking order is really kind of the residents, you know, mom and dad and the kids, and how do you ride, or how could you get around to our parks and things like that. Then we're gonna look at the bike trails, which a lot of people use, as I mentioned, for some of the long distance off the street. But then we also have to recognize we have a lot of bike clubs in the area, and they ride in large groups going through our community, and how to address that or make those a safer situation as well. So we're gonna not look at just one aspect of biking, it's gonna look at all of the aspects of biking. So we'll probably have more this next year as we continue to work on that. Some of the initial task force members from the city perspective is Park and Rec, Community Development, the Bike Patrol from the Police Department. We're going to use Croya Youth Services would be involved, and then we're going to invite resident participation as well on this task force. So we're still kind of fleshing out the project overall, and then we're going to get that out to the community for participation too. So
Mary, were you going to contact any of some of the local clubs to get there?
yeah, we did identify that they would be good to have certain sections of it are overall as well. And the project is actually going to be chaired by Megan O'Neill, who's in community development with the city. She did her master's on bike master plans. So she's got a lot of knowledge, which when I heard that I was like, woohoo! But you know, it's going to be great to work with her because she's been through a lot of this process and understands, and she's also obviously very aware of our own community development requirements, and so it's going to be a great leadership by her. She's the chair of it, and we're going to participate with that. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that you might have noticed if you drive down the Route 60 corridor that Applied Ecological Services has completed their herbicide application, and the grouse is all dead from really about the underpass to out to where you come in on Field Drive, and that's on each side as well as the center median, and that was the kill-off that we recently discussed doing, and they're going to come in next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, hopefully weather cooperates, that will be all rototilled, and then we will be coming back in with seed and plugs and restoring that and having that managed for the next 3 years by Applied Ecological to get a naturalized planting corridor. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but obviously it's a challenging area for growing things because of the high salt, the traffic. There's not an irrigation capability in the middle of those islands. It's a state-owned road. And then, you know, just the challenges that you have with the way it's pitched for drainage and that kind of thing. So it doesn't look very good right now. It looks as you come in. I just wanted to give that heads up to everybody. But that is where we are at, and hopefully the plugs and seed and everything will be in by June, and we'll start to see things grow in there and get that up to speed. So, and I think that's it for my flyers, right? Was it, Winnie? Yeah. And that's it for me.
Great. Comments by the board? We've talked a lot tonight. Opportunities for the public. They left us. So, do you guys want to say anything? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.
I'm gonna stay.
Please, stay a little longer.
Stay a little longer.